Employment always seems to be an important topic for individuals with disabilities and how we as caregivers can support their employment goals. So joining us today is Tuan Lee, a job participant, and Asia Lawson, an Associate Director of Job Development at ARC of San Francisco, and Dale Dadoy from the Beacons Grand Hotel in San Francisco. Jordan Lindsey, Executive Director of the ARC of California, will help moderate the conversation. So let's everyone come on camera and introduce yourselves and then get us started on the important topic of employment.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Felisa. I just want to start with welcoming our panelists here today to talk about employment. But before doing that, just introducing myself. I'm Jordan Lindsey, Executive Director of the ARC of California, and we are so pleased to be one of the hosts of this entire 3-day event with Parents Helping Parents. And I'm just grateful to be here with all of you, with the hundreds of individuals that are joining us from across the state right now. This morning, I laughed out loud with Jim and Kathy Gott. Just this last session with Dr. Zoe, I cried. And then, I've been doing this work for 2 decades, but the previous session on housing, I still learned more. And so just to be here with all of you and to have all of our special presenters is just an incredible time for caregivers across the state to come together, learn, join, and be community. So again, so thrilled to be here with everybody and thrilled to jump into our next session on employment. We talked about housing, we talked about self-care, we talked about a lot of things, and we'll continue the next couple days. But we know at the ARC that when we survey our community, what continues to be at the top of the list of priorities for caregivers, and that is housing and employment seem to often be two of the top topics that rise to the minds of parents especially, but also the community of individuals with disabilities that we advocate for. And so I'm thrilled to introduce you to our panel today, who I'm going to turn over and ask the three of you to introduce yourselves. Asia, maybe we'll start with you, and then we'll go down the line, and then we'll jump in.
You got it. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today. My name is Asia Lawson. I am the Associate Director of Job Development here at the ARC San Francisco. I work to basically help our participants prepare for, secure, search for, and succeed in their jobs, myself and our employment team. We have job coaches that also work in our employment department. And I have been here at the ARC of San Francisco for about just over a year now, actually. I like to really talk about my why and why I'm here as a former tech worker. I really wanted to do something because I understand how important employment is, and it has made such a huge impact in my life. And I have really wanted to work with this community for a very, very long time. And every day for me is an absolute joy because I do get to make that impact. And I get to see how employment affects the lives of participants like the one sitting here now, who I will let introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Tuan Lee, and I've been going to the ARC since 2015 as a client, going to activities and stuff like that. Then later, I progressed into vocational services here, and then I started being active and looking for work. And then I got a few jobs here and there. And then I started realizing that getting out in the community and working was a better function for me. So I eventually took me 3 years to land a job at Beacon Grand, and then finally I met Dale, who is going to introduce herself next. That's me.
Thank you, Tuan. Hello, everyone. My name is Dale Dadoy. I am the Director of Human Resources at Beacon Grand. It's a luxury hotel in Union Square, San Francisco. And I have about 20 years experience in hospitality and about 25 in human resources. And I am honored to be here with you today.
Fantastic. Thanks all for being here. And as we heard from Jim and Kathy Gott this morning, that it's a community around individuals to support. And what I'm thrilled about this session is that we have sort of the whole ecosystem here. We have, of course, Tuan, an individual looking and wanting to work. We have Asia, who is whose job is to support individuals like Tuan, and we have the employer. Dale, I mean, a critical component of this whole thing around employment is the employers who are actively engaged and involved in employing individuals that are part of our community. So great that you're all here. So I just want to jump in. Tuan, your story. Like, start there. So you were looking for a job, you wanted to work, you were connected with the Arc of San Francisco. Um, Whoever wants to start, whether Tuan or Asia want to kind of start this story, but the story of Tuan getting employed with Beacon.
Yeah, sure. So I was coming here as a client before that, and then after that, I started jumping into the vocational program, which I thought that would be beneficial for me because just coming here for activities wouldn't beat the cake. And I thought that I needed income, and I thought that crossing crossing a barrier to be a better person in society would make me a better person. So I thought that looking for work would be like the answer. And I do need to be out in the community to serve, to be that better person. And if I choose my words correctly. Before I was just at home, kind of like not doing anything. And then after that, my mom encouraged me to get out and look for work. And everybody had my back on this plan. So I started using Indeed as well. But Indeed didn't really get me anywhere. And then I went to the ARC and I met Asia. And then Asia was the most beneficial one to help me look for this niche in guiding me through the job search process. And then through the job search process, I saw I was looking left and right, even around one, this place, this bowling alley, and just looking. There was a day where we went to Stonestown and we were looking for places in malls, and I couldn't find the fit. And then finally, God answered my prayer, and then I just found she mentioned the hotel, Beacon Grand, after I had did an internship at Solo Hall for a few weeks, for 6 weeks.
4 weeks. But
4 weeks,
you
yeah.
took a big chance on
I
that
took a
one,
big
too.
chance on that, and that was an internship. And then she mentioned Beacon Grand, and then I came in, I met Dale one day, and then that's how the interview started, and I got hired, and I'm enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying it 3 months in, and I plan to be there for a long time, and I'm liking what my direction right now in life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Asia, tell us the story from your perspective.
Yeah, so Tuan really came in really wanting to have that extra level of support, but not really knowing where to go, but also being very open to it, and also being very open about some of the challenges that you
Yeah.
had, right?
Yeah.
I think it's really important for me to share my story with our participants too, to let know that sometimes I have my own challenges too,
Right.
and I think that helped a lot. But also encouraging for things like travel training and giving support for that, because that was sometimes a bit of a challenge for you too, that independent travel, and it's going to be important for employment. So really supporting every step of the way. And it's not just me, it was Steve, who's also our associate director of employment, or workforce, who also handles all of our job coaches. So it was really getting that support from job coaches as well. So it's our entire team really working together to really identify what Tuan's goals were, how we could support to help you meet those goals, but also making those important connections that we have to make, which is actually how we met Dale. We have I guess now mutual friend and colleague, who has a company that he started called Inclusivity, in which he works trying to help get more visibility and more people with disabilities in the hospitality industry specifically. He sets up usually the first day is a workshop, and then the second day will be a hotel immersion experience for half a day, where participants will come and they'll learn more about the different types of things that you can do in the hotel industry. And we did that at Dale's Hotel. I took 6 participants, many of which want to work in hospitality now, and Dale's dedication to being such a great employer partner, which again, that is important, finding those employer partners. And partners like Mike from Inclusivity as well to really make these connections so that we can help people like Tuan.
Great, fantastic. And then, oh, and Asia, when you lean back, you kind of disappear from us. So stay
Oh,
stay a little closer to the camera if you can.
got
But
it.
still
Thank you.
want to make sure you're with us. Um, Dale, from the employer, tell us the story from your perspective as the employer.
Sure. A lot of HR leaders, such as myself, understand that a strong company needs to have a diverse workforce, which means that we need to have a diverse set of skills, a diverse set of abilities, a diverse set of talents. And in that type of diverse skills and talent, we get all connected. We share one connection in meeting our vision and our goal. And a lot of companies are realizing that now, that in order for a culture to be really strong and really grounded, it has to have a diverse workforce. And I believed in that when I reopened Beacon Grand in 2022. That was my passion, to make sure that we have different backgrounds of talent, because we know that our strength will come from that. And so I reach out to different resources such as Inclusivity with Mike and also other unrepresented group to make sure that they have the platform and the opportunity to apply for work. And that's how this wonderful story had unfolded.
Fantastic. Tuan, I want to go back to you. You mentioned in your story that you said your mom told you need a job or something to that effect.
Yes.
My guess is that out of the hundreds of people joining us today, we have a lot of moms. Tell us more if you are up for it about that conversation and that interaction with your mom and what happened there.
Yeah. So I'm, as you know, I'm on the autism spectrum. I was diagnosed in 2015. And when my mom found that out, she knew that it was going to be a challenge to handle me for the rest of her years. And we have a communication dynamic where we're we're in counseling, but we don't have the best relationship. But me and my mom try to talk it out whenever we can. And when it comes to being grounded in the house, there's things that need to be done. And when I get them done, but when I don't, it's like she gets fed up and she just kind of like gets fed up with me and then she says like you need to be out of the house or something of that nature. Like most parents with their kids, they want them independent. So it's kind of that cliche thing where I'm still struggling with it because sometimes I'm in her way, being an autistic child at 47. But I think as time progresses and I'm in counseling with her, we're learning to give each other the space. But it turns out that she's very happy that I'm working with Dale and Beacon Grand right now. And she's very happy that I branched out and got a job. And we had a talk. We during the 3 years of job searching, my case manager would come and help me, and she would give all her support on me looking for a job. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it was kind of like that cliche, that nature of like my son needs to be out. I want him out of the house more often than usual. I don't know
Yeah,
if that answers your question.
it did.
Yeah,
Thank you for being willing to share that with
thank
us.
you.
Um, Asia, more for you here. What are strategies that, and maybe go a little bit more into what you do at the Arc of San Francisco? I know you already did that in introduction. And then what have you seen that are strategies of success um, for helping people find jobs?
That's an excellent question. And as you can imagine, things are a bit more challenging these days, as just things, it's challenging for everyone finding a job right now. So really that's why we try our best to really focus on partnerships like the one that we have with Beacon Grand, and really people connecting us. It is very, very difficult to send out a resume cold for anyone, but it's even more difficult for the population that we work with, because you don't see on paper the talents that our participants bring. And so those connections are really, really important. And that's a big part of my job too, really going out there and, introducing myself to potential employer partners and also just reaching out to my network in general. But in the meantime, we do a lot of job development, right? So that's a big part of it too. It's really about finding out and assessing what our participants skills really are and how do we build upon those skills to make sure that they're really ready for the workforce. So that is a big part of it as well. So we do things like interview prep, and that goes very deep into things very simple like etiquette. What do you do before and after an interview? What do you do when they ask you those really difficult questions? What do you do when you feel a little stuck? And then also assessing, not only what our participants are interested in doing, but also where they would fit in best with the skills that they bring to the table. And everyone is always super surprised to see just how many skills our participants have. It amazes me every single day. Every day I learn something new from our participants and it's fascinating. So it's a huge part of what we do, but again, turning to those connections, really needing to make those connections and finding employer partners, which is difficult.
Yeah. Okay, it's difficult. So that's the successes that work, which is awesome. What are the challenges right now? You mentioned it, that it's hard, just the job market, but what are the biggest challenges you see to employment right now?
There's a few challenges actually, as you can imagine. Tuan mentioned his mom earlier, and oftentimes the parents can be a huge blocker because parents, much like potential employers, feel they focus on the can't or the disability part of disability. And I always say that I like to focus on the ability part of it. But those are the challenges, honestly. Sometimes a parent can feel like that their son or daughter can't do something in which they actually can, or if not, we can work with them to really develop those skills as well. So it's really working to try to beyond these challenges, which can be difficult. But we do it anyway. We keep pushing, we keep moving because I truly believe that all of our participants can be employed no matter what. And I will work tirelessly, and we all do on the employment team, to make sure that that happens,
Awesome.
including challenging parents.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive in there because as I mentioned, I'm sure most of the individuals who are joining us today are parents or caregivers who support individuals that they love. So let's dive in on that. What have you seen that has worked really well? When you say a parent or a caregiver that is doing something great to support an individual, maybe their child or other, in their pursuit of a job, what does that look like? What is that parent doing?
That parent is really there to say they can. They show up to meetings sometimes. They really are just there to give all the support. Like I think about your mom, Tuan,
Yeah.
and I think about how she showed up to every single one of the meetings that we had. And I love that when parents come to meetings, but also really making sure that Tuan, that's your choice too,
Yeah.
right? So your mom's a really good example of a very supportive parent. Sometimes parents aren't present. They are doing the thing where they are, pushing and saying you need to get a job, but really are saying you can only have this type of job. So one of the things I like to do is I do like to invite parents in, and I say, come on, let me show you our process. Let me show you, some of the things that maybe you weren't aware your son or daughter has talents in. And if they say no, 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 I say, how about we just give it a try? And if it doesn't work, we'll start over again.
Yeah. Dale, I want to ask a similar question to you, not maybe specific about parents or caregivers, but what does successful employment look like for you? You have mentioned that you and your company are purposeful about wanting a diverse set of talents at your location. What does successful employment look like for you, and maybe how does that translate to an individual pursuing a job or caregiver supporting an individual looking for a job?
I would like to start with differentiating different skills. There are some skills that you can train someone to do, and there are skills that is already embedded in someone, and that's their personality and that's who they are. So I'll give you an example. Tuan is a banquet houseman in the hotel. What that means is he sets up meeting rooms, and when the meeting is over, he breaks down the tables, he puts away the pens and the pads. So those type of skills, we can certainly provide training. This is how you vacuum this room. This is how you set up this room. This is how you set up a conference room. This is how you set up a classroom room. So these are all skills that we trade and can be trained. Now, what someone like Tuan brings to the team is his ability to shows up on time. In hospitality, as you know, we schedule based on business needs. So if the San Francisco market is busy, the hotel is busy, we need Tuan every day. If there's no events, Tuan might not have a schedule. But every time, last minute that we call Tuan, he shows up. Not only does he show up, he shows up 15 minutes early, sometimes 30. Yeah. And sits in the cafeteria because he communicated to me that sometimes he needs a quiet room before he starts. So we provide him that space. He has his uniform on. He has his name tag on. He punch in a few minutes early and wait for the call. What makes this successful for Tuan? Again, he shows up. So
Yeah.
for parents out there, Tuan had mentioned a great communication with his mom. As long as you have that communication and you develop what gift you see your son or your daughter has, and then you encourage them to go out there in the world, you encourage them to show up. And employers like me like that. And then we go ahead and train what needed to be trained.
Yeah.
And that's what success looks like to us.
Thanks for sharing that. So I want to dive in a little bit. You guys mentioned this gentleman, Steve, at the name of it was again, what was
Steve
it?
Hubner, he is our workforce development. So he is the person that handles all of our job coaches. So once someone gets hired, they get assigned to a job coach. That job coach is really there to ensure the success of the participants as they're learning their new tasks on their new job. But also as new tasks become available, they're there to also help support them in that. They're also there to support the employer. So it is really bridging that gap in between employer and participant and just making sure it's really successful all the way around. Yeah, that's kind of what Steve handles.
Great. And I'm sure a question from some people who aren't familiar with this is who's paying for this? How is this getting done?
That's an excellent question. So we do receive our job coach funding from the Office of Economic, well, not anymore. We did from the Office of Economic and Workforce Development, the Department of Rehabilitation, and the Golden Gate Regional Center. So that really provides the funding that we need for that additional support, but also for the support of assessments, placements, and all of the things that happen before someone gets employed as well. And then we have grants where we have lost out on one of our biggest grants, which is a big challenge right now. When I mentioned those challenges earlier, that is one of the big challenges. We are losing a lot of funding when it comes to employment for people who are disabled.
Yeah. I going on kind of funding and systemic challenges, I was just looking up preparing for our session here today. The latest numbers we have for Californians with developmental disabilities is that 14% of individuals who want to be employed are employed. It's one of the lowest, if not the lowest, employment rates of a particular population in our state. It's something that in advocacy efforts, we've been raising the flag to the administration and legislators for many years about how this is just unacceptable, for any population to be employed at only 14%. And it's something where California, on paper, claims to be an employment first state for people with disabilities. Is that meaning that if somebody is coming out of high school, transitioning into adulthood, that the first thing that we are expecting of them, at least in policy, what we say is that you're going to be employed, you will have a job. But in practice, we just aren't doing a great job at that. So it's stories like yours, Tuan, and the Beacon and the Arc of San Francisco. This is what, we need to scale this more and more across the state. And you also mentioned sort of a middleman in this whole thing. So can you tell us more? Was it inclusivity? Is that
Yeah.
can you tell us more? Because I'm sure that there are many caregivers here who are really curious. Okay, I want for my son or daughter, child, person I love, my sibling, what Tuan has found. What's my first step? Where do I go? And maybe it is something like inclusivity, or maybe it's directly with an employer, or what would you guys recommend is the
For
first step?
sure. I definitely recommend working with an agency like the ARC because of the resources that we have available, but definitely you could start it in inclusivity. And that is why I think Mike started the business, but also really wanting to partner with organizations like ours. I think that's a great first step, but I also think that having that experience of seeing what employment actually looks like is also a really great part of the experience as well. One wonderful thing that Mike does with inclusivity that our participants have really loved is that hotel immersion. And that's really kind of like a career exploration day, right? Just really seeing what it's like, the ins and outs of what you could potentially do. So even if it's just observing, going to a grocery store, if you have an interest in gaming, we have a great Nintendo store near Dale's Hotel, actually. Many of our participants are very into gaming, and Tuan actually has made us several trips there to the Nintendo store as well. But even just walking into a Nintendo store or going to the bowling alley and seeing what it might potentially be like to work there. I think that's also a great first step. There's no right or wrong answer, but I definitely think having the support of an organization like Inclusivity or the ARC is helpful.
Right. Dale, from your perspective, if individuals who are joining us today, if they say, there aren't partnerships that we're aware of with private employers out in the community, but maybe they themselves could be the one to start that, right? Maybe they could be the individuals to go out and start building bridges with employers, and lead a movement like that in their community. What would be your recommendation for parents or individuals with disabilities if they want to start building those partnerships with potential employers?
A lot of our hotels in San Francisco, they work with City College, nonprofit organization. I worked mainly with inclusivity because they're focused on hotels as well. So I would recommend just looking for in your own neighborhood or in your own area of any organizations that focus on different employment. So ARC San Francisco, for example, and an inclusivity, City College also provide that. I would do a lot of research and sometimes even contacting the HR department and saying, hey, what is the process for someone to apply for this position with this type of skills and talents.
Great.
Just, I think it's very important to really, what the three of us did here is we actually did our part, our role to reach out, to go out there, to ask questions. I think it's very important to really be aware conferences like this, just be out there and pay attention because there are a lot of community and resources that are trying to help each other, and that's where we are now.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that. Following up on that, I've heard just some really wonderful stories across the state of where, whether it's a parent or whether it's somebody in a professional position like Asia or others who find an employer saying, gosh, what we really need is a pipeline of employees because we have these 12 positions we need to fill and we're going to grow, we need more. And then somebody making that connection, well, I know the Arc of San Francisco has 12 people wanting to work right now. And it's this beautiful connection where there's now a pipeline of employees to an employer who's looking for a diverse set of talents. And so just finding those connections, making those relationships happen, has resulted in lots of employment for individuals. But it really does take, as you mentioned, kind of being active and proactive in the community to building those bridges with potential employers and with the source of employees as well. Something that anybody can do and really be out there and trying to make that happen. So Tuan, what does it mean for you to be employed? You talked about a little bit, but how has being employed at a job, what has it meant to you? And yeah, what has it meant to you?
I think overall it gives me a sense of dignity and purpose, clarity over my mind that something is going on in my life that is giving me hope to look forward to. And I think the days that I work, I wake up and I know that I'm going somewhere is what's important. I know that I'm there to help Dale, which I developed a trust over. One of the nicest supervisors I ever met in my life, actually. And I just realized that it's like I have a sense of purpose overall. When I go there, I get the job done in 4 or 5 hours, and then I go home feeling great, and I feel like I accomplished something very dutiful at the workplace. And then I go home and I report to my mom and I tell her what I did, and I feel great. I feel confident.
Thanks.
I feel come home feeling good all the time, pretty much.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Okay, here's my provocative question. Asia, you kind of already touched on this, but for anybody out there, especially parents who are saying, well, that's great. Looks like Tuan is having a fantastic time being employed, but that's just not something that I think is a reality for my child or the person I'm loving. So Asia, who can't be employed? Who can't get a job?
I will never say that there is anyone that can't have a job. Everyone that wants a job and wants to be employed and wants to learn, grow, and thrive can, no matter what. Full stop.
Thanks for that answer. Obviously the Arc of San Francisco has a job coach and job placement services. To just educate us a little bit, Asia, what are some, any and all, and maybe it's mostly that, but what are supports and services that people can rely on or look to try to get support in finding a job? You mentioned DOR a little bit, Department of Rehabilitation.
Yeah, I would start with the Department of Rehabilitation. They have so many resources available for both funding, but also resources to connect to agencies and organizations that are supportive of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I would start there. However, there are a lot of really great resources available online. Another great place to start too. Some people, I get a lot of participants that come to me and they are clean slate, have never had a job before. Internships, we have those as well. Apprenticeships are also great, but a great place to start is really figuring out what that skill set is, right? So there are a lot of assessments out there. There's one in particular, it's an organization called Agilities. It's completely free. It is a tool that we are actually using for participants right now, and it has a work profiler. So it is a great way for you to get to understand what skills match with the potential employment that you could have later. It has been really successful for our participants, and it's a great first step as well.
Fantastic. I have more questions, but you guys, there are lots of questions from our community. So I'm just going to jump to some of them, if that's okay with you all. One, Robin has asked, what options are there for those who are nonverbal when it comes to jobs? So, Asia, maybe Dale, you as an employer, perhaps, is there an employment placement that you can discuss about a person who has different communication approaches.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I have a participant that I have placed who is nonverbal. But again, figuring out what those skills and talents that they bring to the table are, because we all have them, helps us to kind of figure out how we can align how they would be successful in a career. And so through much of our or many of our assessments, we found out that this participant is incredibly organized. So that participant was placed in a position, a full-time job, at an office in which they don't necessarily need to communicate verbally, but they can communicate by email, but also they are thriving at an office job in which they get to organize every single day. So everyone brings something different to the table, and despite your disability, you are able to do so many other things. It's just about taking the patience and the time to figure out what that might be and how it's going to make you happy too. Because it's not just about placing. I am not the person that's ever just going to put someone into a job just to put them into a job. I really want to make sure that our participants are happy. One of the wonderful things about our participants is that they really want to be there. So like Tuan, you mentioned to me recently that you want to expand your skills in hospitality because that is something, this is where
Yeah.
you would like to be.
I didn't tell them.
And you've been putting in so much hard work doing that, you know? So Tuan found his niche, and it took us a while to arrive here.
Yeah.
And we tried a few different things, but you know, it's about having the patience and, you know, seeing it through. Never say never and never stop trying.
Mm.
And in hotels, a lot of parents maybe think, oh, hotels deal with guests. They talk a lot with guests. They have to have guest service. But what we don't see is the back of the house of the hotel. We have people that wash the dishes, the dishwashers. We have the ones that work overnight just to clean the back of the house. We don't have to have verbal skills for those type of positions as long as they're able, and you call it skills, but I call it passion. I know that Tuan is very passionate in organizing and cleaning, and the way he vacuums and organizes things, it is very, very, the quality is amazing. So if someone nonverbal it likes to wash dishes and clean and very good at what they do, then they certainly meet the qualifications of the job.
Thank you. And that answers another question, perhaps, about somebody who's struggling for their daughter who is 32 years old and just finding a fit, right? It sounds like finding the right fit between passions, skills, what's out there for a job, and matching those up. And then also, I love what you said, Asia. It's not just about finding a job. You know, obviously, the ultimate goal is finding something that makes people happy. I love that.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to be honest. You don't always get it right the first time, right? Sometimes it's not a good fit, and that's okay too. I mean, we think about how many jobs did I have? I'm thinking about some of my worst jobs ever. That wasn't a good fit, but we just keep trying.
Yeah. Thank you. We had a question about volunteering before work. And I know that there is, internship programs through regional centers. I don't know if you are familiar with that, Asia, or can speak to that, or anything either of you or you three of you would mention about volunteering or internships prior to looking for employment and suggestions you may have there.
I can start. Well, my take on volunteering is it develops good skills for a job. I've done my share of volunteering here and there, and I know they don't pay, but I know that it gets you somewhere. It's like a good start, and you could actually write it on your resume that I volunteered here, and they'll take that as a grain of salt because I've done that, and for a while I volunteered at the pantry where you just give food to people, stuff like that. I mean, that stuff can really count on it, and yeah, it comes with the experience, and it'll help you enhance your skills. That's all I want to say about that.
Absolutely. And what about your internship that you did at South?
Oh yeah, the internship at Hall was also a paid, but it was it voluntary.
Okay.
It was paid, but it gave me skills to learn about hospitality to get where I am with Beacon Grand.
Honestly, it really did. In
It
4
did. Yeah,
short
in 4
weeks.
short weeks, I developed confidence over working around customers and people, picking up trays, which I never did. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. I, and I know that there are some options out there as well. We're going to try to post some links for those who are attending about even some possible paid internships that regional centers may be able to help find for individuals and participants.
Absolutely. And we have an internship program here actually as well. So if anyone is in the San Francisco area, we have 3 internships, as a matter of fact. We have one internally, which is our Star Cafe. We have a new class that has just started a week ago, where they learn how to make coffee and serve snacks. Dale's been to the cafe a few times in the last cohort. We also have California Academy of Sciences. It's a rotational program as well. And our third one is escaping me at the moment, but we're always looking for more opportunities for that, as well as apprenticeships.
Great. And we had a question, the starting point for you to repeat it, Asia. And I know you mentioned Department of Rehab, but any other kind of starting points that you would suggest again for people?
Yeah, I think a great starting point. Well, first of all, I'll say that the first starting point is having the passion, as Dale said, and desire to work, right? I think that at its very core, and then having the support behind it is really the best starting point. Now, where do you go from there? I do think that you can do your own self-assessments and start getting to know yourself. That's actually what we say. So one of our phases of our job development program is the assessment phase. But the very first part of that is getting to know you for you. That's super important. We may think that we know what's best for, our participants. We don't. It's really about them finding out what their interests are for themselves. So the agilities that I mentioned, it is a free online assessment. There are a few assessments. They all come kind of from the same place. It is from the Department of Labor. It is a 60 question, I believe, assessment that really helps you to pull out what some of those skills might be. But as Dale mentioned as well, going out into the community, and as I mentioned earlier, going out to do that career exploration on your own, going to observe and see, the different types of jobs that you might be interested in. That's also a really great starting point.
Great. Thank you for giving that info. Man, so many wonderful questions. We're going to hopefully have time to get to all of them. So here's one I really want to get to because we may have a lot of parents and caregivers of younger children. And this one says their child is 6 years old. What would any of you recommend for a parent to start preparing their child now for being employed at any age? Maybe they're, 18, maybe they're 6, maybe they're 40.
Embracing and encouraging their interests. Honestly, I think that's a super great part. Being able to go out there and explore who you are and what it is that you're interested in and being supported in that builds that confidence that you need to be able to move forward, even at a very young age. Being told can't is a blocker, right? And so just having that support is a huge part of it, no matter what the age is.
Great. Anything, Tuan or Dale, would you add anything to that?
I would say, for me personally, when I grew up looking for left and right jobs, I had a hard time keeping a job and applying by myself. I would tell the kid, the 6-year-old, I mean the 18-year-old, to try to get involved in kind of like the ARC or like a program to vocational services to help them look for a job, because that's how I started getting a job that I liked.
Great.
Not just do it alone, self-sufficiently.
And I think seeing a couple questions here, it might be helpful to explain further, like the job coach and where the job coach is coming from.
Yeah,
The job coach isn't necessarily from the employer.
right.
Where the job coach is coming from. Typically, the individual who's being employed would be a client of a regional center to get this person specifically is asking about one-on-one job coaching. I know there's even 2-to-1 job
There
coach
is.
sometime or 3-to-1. But any info you can provide of kind of like, okay, how does that actually work? What is that?
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, so we work with our job coaches work 1-to-1 because it's just really the most successful because we have so many different learning styles. I have seen a 2-to-1, but here at the ARC we focus 1-on-1. So really the job coach's role, and it actually can begin oftentimes before they even get employed. So it can be that skills building portion of things where they're starting to build those skills that will be necessary as they're starting to look for a particular type of job. We do tailored day services for that ahead of time, and a participant who's on the job development caseload may be working with a job coach prior to. But typically, what happens is once a participant is employed, we assign them a job coach, and we do what's called a glue meeting. So it's really exactly how it sounds. Sticking the two pieces of our team together by going from pre-employment to employment. That job coach is also in touch with the employer as well, and will go there to the employer with the participant on their first day. So they are very attached like glue too. Really there to learn what the tasks are and assist and support participants as they are learning and doing those tasks. Never to do it for them, but just to be there to support. Now, what sometimes happens is a participant like Tuan, I think that Juliana, does she come every day with you?
She
No.
kind of phased out a little.
Yeah, so they'll phase
Because she
out
failed.
as you really learn your tasks and as the employer is satisfied. But we'll check in, once a week. Sometimes it's virtually, sometimes it's in person, just to make sure that everyone feels really supported. I hope
Yeah.
that answers the question.
I think so, yeah. And it made me realize our administrative assistant in our office right now has their job coaches here right now.
Okay.
So her job coach comes twice a week for only about 2.5 hours, twice a
Mhm.
week. So it varies depending on the person's support, and the job coach can be paid for through the regional center, like Asia was saying, through a provider that employs job coaches. Department of Rehab as well, if the individual has a program, is involved in the Department of Rehabilitation program, where I believe our administrative assistant's job coach is coming from. So it can really vary, but there are ways for that job coach for the individual to get one-on-one support at their job site if needed.
And they can also ask for additional job coaching. So if a participant feels like, you know, I need some additional support, it can always be asked for. So that job coach is never going away.
Yeah, thank
And
you.
at Beacon Grand, we build in on job coach by having a mentor. Once the job coach leaves, Tuan knows, Tuan has a direct point of contact, which is me right now, to call if he has any questions or if he's confused. I think it's important to also have mentorship inside the organization and inside the company. And that's something that I have been working on with inclusivity. To make sure that if we place candidates, that they also have a mentor inside the company and organization.
Fantastic. Doing great work there. Thank you for doing that. Tuan, this is not a question, but just people think you're awesome. That's all. That's also in there.
Cool.
Just letting
Thank
you know that. So
you.
thanks for joining us today. I want to let people know that we have posted in the chat for everybody to see a link to some employment options. A lot of what we're talking about today. The paid internship program, which is something I mentioned. There's a link in the chat that gives more information about that, where regional centers should be able to help individuals get a paid internship program. And I could tell you right now that that is actually being underutilized in our state, that there is funding for that, and it's being underutilized. So if that is something you are interested in, you should definitely take a look at that paid internship program. Man, many more questions. We have a few more minutes to jump at it, so let's see if we can get there. Maria, I see your question specifically about, it sounds like your child has a great skill And while we're not here to talk about, specific, can we find your son or daughter a job? I think what we're here to do is just encourage you to either yourself or to get the support of a service provider or regional center or department of rehab to help make that match, right? And maybe you are that matchmaker with a potential employer, but we want to let you know today is that there are supports out there to help you and more importantly, help your son or daughter find that match. Several questions about benefits. So how this may compromise benefits, public benefits, SSI, Medi-Cal. We are going to talk about benefits. And there are lots of resources out there. We have several, and in Caring Futures, the program Caring Futures, we have had several of our webinars, our caring conversations on this exact topic of how employment may impact benefits, and how you don't want to lose benefits. And so we've had that conversation many times. We're not going to dive deep into it here today, but I will definitely give our guests here a chance to give any input on your experience. Either Tuan personally, Asia, I'm sure this is something you talk about with some
All
of
the
your
time.
participants. What would be kind of your high-level comments around the benefits and employment?
So many of our participants, of course, have SSI, SSDI, and do not want to lose their benefits. So many are looking for part-time work. What ends up happening is depending on your hours, your SSI will reduce. And you can only make up to a certain amount of money, which is why many of our participants are looking for part-time jobs. However, one of the things that we always mention on more than one occasion is likely if you get a full-time job, you will be making much more than you would make on your SSI or SSDI. It depends really on the goals of the participant. The participant might just want to work and keep their benefits, and that is completely fine. But if I have a participant that says, they're really trying to get independent, move out, then I would really encourage the full-time and kind of really going over that over and over until, the participant feels comfortable, if that is their goal. But also if they still want to keep them too, that doesn't mean and wants to move out, it doesn't mean your options are gone. It doesn't. There are many other options for housing as well. So there are multiple amounts of options, but it's really about listening to the participant and what it is what their goal is.
Great. And I see some of our team posting as well. So Parents Helping Parents has a webinar on paid internships. I know that Caring Futures, we have done, especially what we're talking about here, benefits, how to utilize able accounts, around Medi-Cal, et cetera, your eligibility. And I know that we will follow up with all people who have registered for this webinar with a list of some of those resources. But as we go as well, maybe I'll ask the team to post some of that as well. PHP, Parent Helping Parents video. Maybe we can link to our Caring Conversations also in the chat for everybody, because we're talking. We've had an hour to talk about employment, but there's many layers, as we're already talking about, with benefits, et cetera, paid internship programs. And so we encourage all of you who are here with us today to keep digging, keep going for more information. There's a lot out there, and we're here to make sure that you have access to all that information. Let's see. There's been a couple comments about micro enterprises or micro businesses. I don't know if any of you, Asia, want to talk about that. Certainly it is certainly a path for individuals to, basically start their own business. We've seen many, and some have become wildly successful. People who start stock businesses that are, million-dollar companies now. But don't know if there's anything you want to mention about micro enterprises helping somebody just monetize, make money off of something that they're
Absolutely.
passionate about.
I think I mentioned earlier how I'm always learning something new every day about our participants. Many times that is their entrepreneurial spirit, and it shows up, once we get into these conversations. We have someone who has who's written a book. We have someone who has started a bracelet business, a baking business. So we definitely encourage that because getting a job and having employment has many faces. And so we are always encouraging everything, but I love the entrepreneurial spirits. I have one myself. And so I'm always excited to have these conversations when I discover that might be interested in that. So of course, we will offer training and other resources for that. And we often have webinars and things for entrepreneurship as well.
Great. And for an HR, this is kind of for both Dale and Asia, and this is just a real practical question that was asked. But in an application, does a person need to disclose that they have a disability, or what would be your recommendations around, an application, a resume, talking about themselves?
For applications, it's optional. The reason why I would like to encourage people to be honest and authentic in the way they complete application is that's how employers can help and accommodate. And so we read the applications, and if they put details of accommodations needed, then we know what to give for accommodations. So the answer to that question is when you're completing an application and resume, be honest, be authentic, and ask what you need, because as an employer, we have the responsibility to accommodate and to provide that.
I echo that for sure.
Love that answer. Love that answer, to be authentic and honest in your application, your resume. We're coming to the end here. Thank you, everybody, for your incredible questions that really added a lot of depth to this conversation. I'll ask the three of you if you have any, closing remarks. Maybe Tuan will finish with you. Dale, any closing remarks for our guests that are joining us here today?
Sure. I think there are more resources out there than what we know or what we expect. And so just keep looking and keep hoping. And at the end of the day, we all are connected and working together for the greater good of all human beings.
Thank you.
Exactly what I was going to say. Keep going. Yes, you can. There is no limit to what you can do. If you put your mind to it and you want it in your heart and you have that passion for it, you can do it. And there's support out there. There's a village that's really out there that wants to see you learn, grow, thrive, and be happy.
I just want to end with don't give up. Just keep searching, and you'll find it. You'll find that something. It doesn't end there. It'll just keep going. I mean, it took me 3 years, but I found it, and then just keep searching, and you'll get there. Don't worry about it.
Great words to end on. Dale, Tuan, Asia, I want to thank you guys very, very much for taking time. I know that you all got together there at the ARC of San Francisco. Dale, really want to especially thank you as the employer for taking time out to be part of this. Such an important piece of this puzzle is the employers, and I just want to acknowledge you and Beacon and your commitment to the community as an employer. So thank you for doing that. And Asia at the ARC of San Francisco, I think the ARC of San Francisco continues to lead in a lot of ways on employment. Specifically, one of the reasons why we wanted you, I was hoping you'd be a part of this conference. So thank you. And Tuan, I echo comments that were made in our chat. It's incredible to have you join us today and really inspiring your journey. So thanks for being part of it with us here all today.